The Grappling Hour is brought to you by Luda Gear, athletic support items created by grapplers for grapplers. Fire Grub Meal Prep. Meal prep done right.
Yeah. Check it out.
Now, I've been wanting to interview this guy for a long time. Like, there was a CXF that I saw him hit, a sick, nasty triangle armbar submission that I just thought to myself, I was like, man, that looked really fucking good. For whatever reason, every time I try to interview him, he would have another fight. And I'd be like, well, I don't want to go and interrupt that. He just kept fighting more and more and more and more and more. It's not just CXF. It's over at Combates. It's over at King of the Cage over just this weekend. And I was so happy to report that our good friend Fernando Padilla came away with a major, major win at the 20th anniversary show. And it was at this point I finally pulled him aside and said, listen, kid, you're not running away from me this time. We're doing an interview. And he was like, this is your fault, Raph. And I was like, maybe. But now we're going to amend a wrong, and we're going to bring on Fernando Padilla. Sir, how you doing, my man?
Hey, guys, I'm good. And you? Awesome. Just waking up.
This is the worst thing that you could do to grapplers is be like, hey, can you do 9 a.m.? Ooh, oh, God. Dog, you know actually, this is our
really
life.
Good. It's really good. It's I'm usually wake up at this time because I need to go to the Healthy Fight Dogs. I need to go to the gym. My training it starts at 11, so like I'm usually always awake at this time.
I mean, I get that much, but when it's a fight week, and then you get like all of that time where you're just so tired, you know, you take a few days off though afterwards. So to me, it's not unnatural for me to say, you know what, dude, you don't need to train this week as much. But here you are getting straight back into the gym. Why are you heading back into the gym, man?
Oh no, right now I'm just helping my partners. I'm resting. I've been training for this fight. We trained like a long time. We trained a lot. But I was in fight camp over and over and over for like 5 or 4 months. Because they offer me fights, they cancel fights. They offer me another one, they cancel. Like they cancel like 4 fights before this one in King of the Cage, and pretty much like I was just in fight camp like over and over. Coach was just pushing me, and like right now my body after the fight, literally like I cooled down, and my body was like, hey, you know what, you need to rest a little bit. Like you actually need to rest. Like we are hurt.
I like that your body talks to you like you're Venom. It's like, we are hurt.
Yeah, we are hurt, man. Come on.
Fernando, here's a fun fact about you that I enjoy, is that you have a really unique jiu-jitsu style for MMA. Like, it's really fun to watch you, and I don't know that you get that or that you understand that as much as me, a person who covers a ton of fighters, a ton of events. I distinctly remembered after one event hitting up Casey Halstead when I saw him walking you out at CXF, and I was like, bring him to me. And I was like, I want to interview him. You have a very goofy personality, a great jiu-jitsu sense. I was like, you're perfect, tailor-made for me to interview. And it's always made me very happy. But when I say it's been hard to keep you in an area where I can interview you, it's just because you're so active. How many fights have you had within the past 2 years?
The past 2 years, this is my fight number 8.
Okay.
Already.
Yeah. That's
the last one. Yeah. I mean, the last year when you see me on CXF, that was the beginning of 3 fight 4 fight winning streak.
Yeah.
I fight in CXF 1 month after that. No, 3 weeks after that, I fight in King of the Cage, short notice, same place, Burbank, Ontario, California, and then I went to Nebraska to fight in LFA 1 month after that, and then 3 weeks later, I fight in Hawaii, and like all those 4 matches were like first round finishes. So just my manager Jason and coach was you're like, oh, you're going to fight again. You're going to fight again.
Sure. And I like, it's just funny to me because, I never think I want to be in someone's way. So when I say like, oh, I'll interview you, most people take a few weeks off or, go enjoy their lives. I immediately, when I was like, hey, we should do an interview, I was getting word very quickly that you were going to do another fight. And I was like, well, I don't want to ruin that. Like, no, I'll catch him when he's done with the next one. And then it became like, well, no, he's got another fight after this. And I was like, wait, listen, you know what? I'm going to catch up with him down the line. He's got too many goddamn fights for me to follow. What is it, I guess, that, because we should also be very clear. You're healthy enough because of those first round finishes. That's how the fights were able to happen back to back so quickly. But like for you, is there an additional rush in having that many fights go back to back to back, or is it just whatever they're putting in front of you?
It was like it wasn't a rush at all. Like I tell you, I finished for example, the CXF fight. I finished without literally a punch. Like I fight with Sergio Perez, and I finished with literally like no punches on my face, no punches on my body. The worst thing he do in the fight was picking me up and pulling me down, but like that doesn't even hurt. And then the fighting King of the Cage, I knocked him out with a knee in the first round too, and then like Derek Miner is the one who hit me more in LFA in Nebraska. He hit me with a couple elbows, with a couple punches, like when I was down. But that's the way I work, that's what I want. Like the moment that we stand up after a couple of exchanges in the ground, he was completely tired. Like he tried to throw a spinning back kick to me, and I remember he just fell down, like just hitting me, and he fell to the ground. I was like, oh wow, he's really tired.
Yeah.
Like I have these, and then the one in Hawaii, I think was, I could say was my best performance ever. It was a good stop battle. I finished TKO him, and it was a good fight. And then like coach told me after that fight, you know what, like you need to take a rest. Like for first time in a year, I hear my coach telling me like, hey, you need to take a rest. You can go back to Chihuahua. And I was just like, thank you.
Well, it's funny because there are so many athletes, especially in MMA, who are just good soldiers. Like, we were joking about this, but my buddy Milton, who was fighting, I guess, one of your homies, which is very odd. I want to point this out in a second. But, Milton's just kind of one of those guys where you just go, do this, and he goes, okay, and he can do it. And for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not capable like this. People yell at me to do shit all the time in jiu-jitsu, and they're like, Raph, get a takedown. I was like, it's not going to happen. But thank you. Good suggestion.
Yeah.
But can we also discuss this? Because for whatever reason, they paired all of the 10th Planet guys from Van Nuys, essentially, with 10th Planet Oyama guys / And I was looking around, I was like, can we not make 10th Planet on 10th Planet crime? Because it's really weird to look and see like Ron on the other side and being like, Elder, Ron, Jesus Christ, this is like a scrimmage.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just the people who I train with, like the mentality that we have in 10 Planet is different. I get that. Since I was in Chihuahua, like 10 Planet is my family. No matter who you are, where you from, but if you train jiu-jitsu and you're from 10 Planet, you're my family.
Yeah.
Like that's the way they always show it to me. Like back in the HQ when I used to came with my old coach Mauricio, like everybody like open the doors of their houses, like, oh, you have a place to stay, like you want to stay with us, like things like that. And El Paso, 10 Planet El Paso with Quito, and sometimes coach Master Big, they're always the same. Like, hey, you want to stay here? You have you have place to stay.
That's awesome.
So they always show us those things. I love the people from 10 Planet. I love everybody from 10 Planet, and you can tell them, like, everybody who knows me knows that I'm like, the goofy guy, the one who's always saying hello to everybody, smiling. But fighting is different. Fighting is different. My family in the fighting business is Oyama and the people who train with me. No matter if you're signed with my manager, no matter if you're like my longtime friend, like, if they offer us a fight, like, I think we need to fight. It's business.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I do appreciate that because I mean, you guys over at Oyama are really sick. Like, I really have a large appreciation, and it makes me scared when I walk past you and you just see this burly dude in Christian, and I'm like always like, the fact that you're like someone who punches and grapples, it's too much. So when I look at your team, I'm always like, Jesus Christ, there's too many of you guys. Let's do a little bit of history, though. I want to know where grappling or martial arts begins for you. Do you mind taking us through that?
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's a fun story. I've been always, like I tell everybody, I've been always fighting, always. I feel that it's something that I just have in my blood, in my veins. My dad and all my uncles were really from the Padilla side. Were always like really good street fighters, but in the past the sport wasn't that big. More in Mexico, in Mexico it was barely starting when I was, I think, 14, things like that. But just imagine in the past, like, nobody know about MMA. Like, they barely, like, for sure they don't pass the first UFC in Mexico.
Yeah.
They have TVs. But yeah, my dad, like, my dad is a great person. I love my dad, but he also, it's like me, like, the time that you make something like wrong, he's going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And like, I've been, like I tell you, I've been always fighting street fights and things like that since I was young. A lot of my friends always put me like first because, oh yeah, like, go please, because I was the one fighting. But my mom and my dad never let me train because it was like I was always skinny, like more skinny than what I am right now. And they were always like, no, they're going to injure or things like that. But I was always in sports, football, soccer, like all these things. And one Christmas party, I'm going to make it short. I was training boxing by myself for like 6 months with my money. I get to a gym, but the gym was too expensive and I have to like cut that. And then I stopped training, and one Christmas Eve, we used to live in front of my grandpa's house. When my grandma and my grandpa's house, like literally in front, like the street in the middle, and we're in the front of each other. And my dad's car was outside the door, our house. So going out of my grandma's house, we're going to my dad's best friend's house. We always do that on Christmas. We would just go all the night over there, and this big white truck just park in front of us with the heavy lights on, and two guys like go down and start like taking my dad out of the car. And it was something new for me, like in that time in Mexico was like the narcos and all that stuff was really, really heavy, and more in Chihuahua. And my first thought is like, oh, they taking my dad away, they're going to take my dad, they're going to kidnap him or something. So I have it was me on the car, then my sister, and then my brother and my mom in the front. So my mom just opened her door. I opened my door, take my brother and my sister out, and I was on the middle of the street screaming. Like, I think I never screamed like that in my life. I was just like, help, help, help. And in one point, I was just like, man, everybody's with their families. Like, nobody's in house. Like, it's Christmas. Let's be honest. And the second thought was like, oh, they're not taking my dad. Like, I'm going to do something, but they're not taking him. And I just run back, and I saw my dad with these the two guys that go down in the ground, just hitting them. Bah, bah. And one third guy go out of the truck, and it was like an old man. And my dad looked at him and he was like, "Hey, don't you ever get involved. Like, don't get involved. Like, you see how I like what's going to happen." So the guy don't like wait for my dad to turn around and hit him right on the nose, right on the nose. I remember it's the only punch that my dad received in that fight. So long story short, my a couple of my uncles go out. We destroy the guys. Like we literally put a beating on them. The main guy who was driving have I remember having a cut from side to side of the forehead. He was bleeding all over. It was soccer kicks flying around. Like no, it was just a massacre. The police came by. My mom called the police. My grandma, my like everybody called the police. Uh, and like after a couple of police things that happened, like they want to take my dad too because the other guys were like super bit up. It's like, hey, like who assault who?
Right.
Like it's like yeah, like we tell them the story and they were like okay, like it's fine. We're going to take them home. We cannot take them to the with us. Like they are just bleeding a lot. They are all bit down. They going to rest in their house. So uh whatever. I was before that I was telling my mom like for a long time that I want to fight. I want to train. I want to train. And I think that one was the best uh excuse. You know, I went to my mom the 2 days after that, and I tell my mom, you know, mom, like I know we throw punches and I know we beat them down, but uh, if something like that happen again, I want to be ready. I wanna know what to do. Like I don't want to just throw punches. Like this is whatever, you know. I want to be able to do something. So she said yes. 2 days later, well, yeah, that was a Sunday or Saturday when I tell her that, and Monday she told me, "Oh, you have a gym where you want to go in special," and I was like, "Yep, I know where I want to go." So I just went to. It was close to me. It was close by to me. Fight Club Chihuahua, and I remember I step in the gym. I have sweat. I have pants and shirt, and my coach start putting me to like hit the back. I was feeling so dumb. I have these two other guys that like hit in the back, like professionals, and I was just like looking at them like, oh, what I'm doing? Like I don't know. I just realized that I don't know nothing. I just realized at that point I was just like, oh wow. And then my first day was the hit in the back, and then go right away to jiu-jitsu, and that's what I feel that I fell in love with the sport. When I started doing jiu-jitsu, I was just like, oh, I love this. Like I really love this, and that's how everything began.
Well, first of all, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that things worked out okay for a number of reasons. I mean, I'm glad your family's safe. I'm glad that in the most backwards of ways, you got what you wanted. You were like, well, now that this did happen, really, really unfortunate. However, I have this gym.
Yeah, I have this gym.
Somebody might be like, did he orchestrate this himself? But I don't think you would ever do that to your own family.
I think we have pictures of my dad with blood, and we have pictures of because, like I tell you, the guy was bleeding from side to side of the forehead. So outside my house, they steal the blood marks over there. Like the blood marks are there. It's a really really common like joke into like family parties.
Yeah.
We call it like the massacre of Christmas, because it's what happened. We're having a good Christmas and everything. You go out and you need to start fighting like out of nowhere. Like,
yeah, man, that's intense. That's so great. I have to wonder, and you'll have to excuse me for asking this in this way, but you are such a light-hearted guy. Like, take you out of fighting, like take fighting away from you. You have a very nice and goofy and fun personality. Is part of that a direct result of saying, like, when you've gone through something that bad, that you're just kind of like, fighting's not like that. It's different. Like, fighting is easy almost because even though you are in there and you are putting your life at risk, your family's not being held against their will. Is that part of it, or how are you able to keep such a light attitude having had something that crazy happen to you?
It's just how I am, the place where I grew up, Chihuahua. I never I That's for sure. I tell stories like this, but something that I never had was a bad childhood. Like,
Mm.
if I do wrong stuff in my life, if I was going for the wrong side of the road, it was because of me, because I decided to do that shit. But my dad, that's why I work so hard. My dad always showed me that, being drunk, being like sick, being like, I don't know, in the worst condition, he always wake up and go to work. Always wake up and go to work. So he's my inspiration. My dad is my inspiration, but it's just the place where I grew up is a lot of shit. Uh, Mexico is hard. It's a
Yeah.
place where a lot of people close opportunities. Like, you have one opportunity, they close the door. Like I put in my recent post about my sponsors. I put a post after my fight about my sponsors, and I put a little comment, that I came from a place where a lot of people don't have the will to help you with the sport.
Mm.
Like, they just don't want to. They just don't want you to grow up. And it's not everybody. I have a good people in Chihuahua who helped me since the beginning. I have this guy, Jerry Sierra. He always helped me since the beginning. I remember he told my coach, that guy is a UFC guy.
Hmm.
That guy is going to be in the UFC. Right now, I look at Jerry and I always tell him, like, thank you for everything, man. Like, he helped me with shorts. He helped me with money. He helped me with everything I need. I just ask him and he helped me a lot. Like, big shout out to him. I love Jerry, and he was always there. Uh, but other than that, I went to a lot of places. I went with a lot of people, even family and things like that, and they were just like, nah, like, nah, I don't believe it. And I've been always like this. I feel is the way my mom and my dad raised me. I've been always smiling. I will always positive. I tell you, there's a lot of shit, and what's the point of put more in this word? I can be a shitty person, but I don't like it. I don't like it. I have bad days where like sometimes I don't even smile and I feel bad with myself. It's like, you're not like that. You're not like that. And I'm just really passionate with everything I do. Everything, even just living for me is like the most beautiful thing. I'm living my dream right now. I'm living in California, living in a house full of fighters, and the best, one of the best gyms in the world, a top 20 for what I know. Man, like, it's crazy how that I'm not going to be happy, how that I'm not going to be like smiley all the time.
And it's true, but I would have never guessed that's the way, because so many different people have different things that brought them to the sport. And I'm so glad that you found these opportunities, because you are a very solid fighter. Like, there are certain specific things that I look for when I'm covering people. There are some people who I think are good fighters. There are some people who I think have great personalities. And they don't necessarily always go together. And
Yeah.
that's not even including the fact that when I saw your jiu-jitsu, it's not easy. It's not something that's a basic level. There's a real artistry and a way I see you set up things. And for me, that's really fun. So I guess to circle back over to King of the Cage the other day, I have a front row seat. I'm literally looking at you get this mounted triangle, and
I was watching.
I hope you weren't watching. But I'm looking at you hit this mounted triangle with seconds left to go in this first round. And to me, all I could think of was, for your opponent, was, that's a preview. That's going to happen again. And again, no disrespect to him. It's just your entries were good. And they're very difficult to stop, especially when you cracked him early on. So do me a solid and tell me from your interpretation how the fight went.
Well, I feel that this fight, it's I'm going to say it's my best performance, but more for the way I was feeling, the way I was doing things. I was calm. I was focused. Uh, I is the first time in my life when I was feeling like more than prepared. Like other fights, I know I'm ready. I know like, oh, I trained for this, but you still have that little like heartbeat that is like increasing. Like you start thinking on the fight, and your heartbeat start increasing. You start moving around. You start like, ooh, but or you try to sleep, and then you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to fight tomorrow. Like, oh, this can happen. This can happen. Like this fight, I slept good, and everything on the fight, I was really, really confident in my training. Like I tell you, it was a long time. I suffer a lot. I cry. I bitch a lot with coaches. I was in all over. I was all over injured. My back, then my knee, then my like everything. And I was like, this today is not going to be worse than what you do in training, man. Like, no matter what. Like I tell you, it's a big improvement to me because if you see my last two fights, my last two losses, I gas out. I completely gas out in my last two fights, and I was looking forward to like what I do wrong. Maybe the weight cut was wrong, but another thing is that I was grabbing one submission. There is something that I start doing here when I came here to Timoyama. But back in the days, I don't do that right away. When I was in Chihuahua, I was setting up submissions all over in my fights too. But this time here in I was so focused on finish the fight fast. Every time I get like one submission, like I'm going to finish this submission. So the submission wasn't there, and I just gas out. This fight was totally different. This fight, I was just worried about working everywhere I go. Like if we are standing up, I'm going to work. If we are down, I'm going to work. So if you see it, I was with my Ruber guard throwing elbows.
Oh yeah.
I was in triangle hitting him like all the time, just opening spaces, and like I think that was the main focus. Like breaking him everywhere with my work. Like I was working, pap, pap, pap. Finished the first round. I was feeling amazing. I was like, coach, look at me, and he's like, you feel good? It was like, yeah, like I have air. Like coach was like, good, go, fuck him up. I was just ready. Like you say, the first round was just like a spoiler of what was going to happen next.
Yeah. And it's intriguing because again, I know your game. Like I don't know it, like I can stop it, but I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar enough where when I saw you set it up, I just go, nah, this is too easy. Especially when you had the opportunity, very, very, very top of the first round, you crack him, and then you're playing off of your back, which most people would feel is, not really advantageous. But for your particular game, you on your back is really like, it's more dangerous for them, I feel, because you have the ability with both your reach and your setups that make you unique to deal with, as you mentioned with your rubber guard. And I'm like, I want no part of that. I felt like that's how you were able to set up arm bars in the past, or really just close the distance so that they can't do what they're good at. So when I saw that at the very end, I was like, yeah, he's going to get this with time to spare in that first round. But in the second round, you found your way back to it. So how were you able to get back there?
I was just feeling it, like, okay, or one of two things were about to happen since the beginning of the fight. When my first combination was a jab through, faking my jab, then a jab cross, and I landed. The cross knocked him down, and in that point, I was just like, okay, I know, standing up, he's not going to do nothing. And then we went to the ground, and I was working. Like I tell you, not disrespect to my opponent, but I spar, like I work in the ground with Christian. Christian is a big guy. I work with Sid. I work with a lot, like I don't know, Alex, even Alex Perez. Like he's strong, really strong. These guys that I'm talking about, they are just like retard strong. The other day I was for this fight camp, just one day, and I think it was enough to realize that I'm like, oh damn, this is a big difference. I train with Brand Primus on the ground. Like it's a huge monster. It's a huge difference between him and me, between Christian and me in body wise,
Yeah.
And like I get to my fight, and I'm like, oh, this guy is not as strong as Christian. This guy is not as good as Christian. Like I was just thinking on that, and I feel that I was able to work because of that. I was feeling good. I was like, okay, my rubber guard is working. I'm just going to open spaces, elbows all the way. Like I tell you, just trying to set it up and wait for the perfect moment for him to like close it himself. If you see it, I work the less and I make them work.
Mm.
How I finished the triangle at the end was because he stand up. He tried to slam me. I just grabbed his leg. Like I was like, okay, thank you. I grabbed his leg. He tapped, and that was the point. In the first round, he do it good. He don't stand up. He don't try to he don't try to do the slam. So I wasn't able to reach for the leg, and he was sprawling really good.
Yeah.
But I turned him over, and then the 10 seconds clap was there. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to finish it. I'm just going to hit him a little bit. Like, so I just finished with a couple strikes.
Which, by the way, I could
like,
hear the thud of that from where I was. It's funny because at the end, you don't necessarily have all your wits about you. So as you're just like, well, no, I got to hit. I'm in this position, so I better well make it worth my while and his to hit him. And I just heard like the thud of the glove and the punch hitting his head, and I just go, that doesn't sound fun. All right.
Yeah. It was right. I can see his face, and like I take his only arm out and start hitting him with the other one. It was just nasty. And I was about to hit an elbow, and the bell just ring.
No,
I remember I just remember hearing Ron say elbow. I was already putting it up, and then beep. It was like, okay. Next round.
It was impressive, man, and I don't think that you're, I know that you're proud of it and you should be, but I don't even think that you're doing it justice in saying how effortless it looked to do. And effortless isn't easy in MMA. You got a guy who doesn't want any part of that to happen, but your calm and your ability to reach underneath the leg and to secure it. I mean, I was starting to pack up at that point because I was just like, yeah, I think we're good here. All right. Yep. I think that's done right here. And I'm not the type that usually says, it's over. I usually look at it and kind of go, he's got an out here, he's got an out here. And I was like, nah, this triangle's a wrap. I wanted to ask this. Was there any weirdness that was afterwards? Because I know that you play to the camera, and I saw you posing, and you had like this Shawn Michaels like pose like this, and then like people were kind of walking by you, and you're just still pointing at the camera, and I was just like, he is holding this pose very well. But I didn't know what was happening after the fight. Do you care to explain?
After the fight, I was just I was thinking about that, like since I get to the arena, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to knock him out, tap him out, and I'm just going to do a cholo pose. Like I'm just going to sit down there like a gangster, just lay down in the middle of the ring, just looking at the top like a cholo. I was just like, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. I was happy of like get a fight, and I was just happy of everything. Going to eat, fight, win the fight. Like everything was just beautiful that day, and nothing was about to ruin that day for me. And like I don't know, the feeling of like when I win that fight, the feeling was like I'm back on track. Like I'm back on track. The last two losses that I have was hard, back-to-back losses, and then decisions because of dumb thing that I do, or maybe like I don't train as good as I should, but just I feel that like okay, I'm back on track. Like we're going for the dream again. Like we're going for the dream.
It's funny. I spoke to Christian. I was asking him like what was one of the hardest things for him to come back from and all that sort of thing. And he had a fight with Rich Lore, which was tough for me because I like Christian a lot and I like Rich a lot. So it's one of those fights where I have to be major Switzerland, and I'm like, nope. Good luck, guys. Do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Rich won that fight, and I asked, just independent of that, Christian, what was a tough moment for him in his fight career? Like, what's something that was difficult? And he's like, honestly, coming back from that. And then lo and behold, his next fight at LFA, he cracks some guy straight open and gets a perfect, knockout right then and there like this. And I'm looking at him and I go, I know losses never make sense in the moment because you want to have those perfect blemishes kind of thing where you just keep going through and you have a great record. But I feel for your particular case, it's one of those things that you won't forget. And I feel like that feeling that you had again at King of the Cage and that remembering of how that is, I feel like you're on a good trajectory, my man. Like, you just really have to stay consistent and be there. And I feel like when you say the UFC is in your future and you have family members who say that, you're not far off. It's just a matter of being in the game and being consistent,
Yeah, yeah, like I tell you, the last year was a good year, like the 4 wins in a row. Um, it was pretty much what I was looking for. Before that, I will never say I fight 5 times in 1 year. 5 times in 1 year, like even for me, like saying that was insane. I was in Mexico fighting twice a year, every 6 months, I don't know, and like then no fights because nobody want to fight, and it was just hard in Mexico. And when I came here and they give me those opportunities, it was hard to say no. I'm a guy that look. I'm here to do what coach say. I was already thinking, I was talking with a lot of my training partners, a lot of my brothers here, and they were telling me like, man, you've been here for a long time too. Like, go back, enjoy your family, go to Chihuahua. And I was thinking the same. I was, you know what? I'm going to fight in King of the Cage, and I'm going to tell everybody I'm going back to Chihuahua. I don't care. I'm going back to Chihuahua. And the only thing that I hear was coach and Jason. Jason called me the day after the fight and tell me like, hey, we need another fight. And coach told me the same. Hey, you're good. Get ready to fight again. And I'm just like a dog, like maybe I just want to go and like lay down. But if coach, that is my owner, tell me like, hey, let's go to the walk to the park, I will do it. Like, I do it. And I proved it the last year. He told me you have to fight 4 times. I fight 4 times. He told me I have to fight one more time this year. I do it. I'm going to rest. I don't even know if I'm going to rest one straight week. Yesterday I rest because the doctors told me to rest.
Sure.
And I was sitting down. I was sitting down there looking at the training because even that I'm not training, I'm in the gym. I'm 24 hours in the gym. And I was just looking at the training and I was just like shaking. It's like, oh, yep, I want to train. I want to train.
Yeah.
And I just love I love the sport. You see the last picture that I post about me smiling in the weigh-ins. It's one of my favorite pictures in the world because it represents what I feel about fighting. I love fighting. Like my heart, my head, my body is into this thing like 24/7. Like I want to fight. And I just love to fight. A lot of people tell me too, like, why you always smiling in your fights? Why you always like? They think it's disrespectful, like in the weigh-ins, like look at my opponent and smile. I just love to fight. I just love that feeling of having somebody in front of you. I cannot hit you right now, but I'm going to hit you later. Like I'm going to hit you tomorrow, and you're going to feel it. Like I don't know. I just love the sport. I love all these things that I do, and
well, I think that it's
like.
It's a kind of sign of insecurity on their part if they're taking your smiles as being some form of disrespect. Because, again, I've been watching you for a while. I've never once, when I've seen you smile, thought, how dare he? What is wrong with this kid? He's smiling at a weigh-in? You get out of here. Like, to me, you do see that passion. It's very apparent. And again, when I say there are those things that I look for when I'm like, no, I want to interview this guy, sometimes it's a guy who's just like, man, look at that knockout. We got to talk about that. Sometimes it's, man, look at this guy's personality. He's the next Connor kind of a guy. For you, it was very clear. Your jiu-jitsu is great in a very hard sport, but your soul seemed to be, you love this. And to me, those people are the individuals who, it doesn't matter if they're fighting, if their teammates they're there. If they are fighting, they're going to fight with everything that they've got. And you can't ask more of an athlete than those qualities. So to me, that's why I'm like, no, 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 no. If we're gonna interview, I want it to be special. I don't want it to just be a 3 minute. Hey, you got a triangle there. Good job, kid. All right. I'm like, no, I want to get to know you, and I feel like taking this opportunity today was so important because I didn't know that story for you. I do know now how it has helped to shape you, but I feel like for people who are just coming in on the ride, what is it they can expect? Because I think there's probably a couple good opportunities to fight before year's end, and you are healthy enough. You didn't really take any damage the other day. So what is it that you have to tell people to expect maybe before the end of the year?
You know what? I don't like to like think about that, but I'm pretty sure I'm fighting for like before the end of the year. Coach already told me like you fight one more time. Like coach is a family guy. Coach understands the value of family, and that's something that I love about him and respect a lot. That if you have like a family issue, he's going to be like, hey, family's first. But let's be honest. I don't have a kid. I don't have a wife back in Chihuahua waiting for me. That's like a different type of responsibility. I have my mom, my dad, and my family that I want to go and see, but I know they want the best for me, and the best for me is like just pursue my dream and go for my career. You know, if I have to fight again, I know they're going to be fine with it, and then I'm going to go back to Chihuahua. They're going to be there. You know, I already passed the time of my life of being here, of like thinking that Chihuahua is going to be the same when I go back. You know, like everybody's going to be the same, and I already passed that type that era. You know that. If you ask me, what was the worst thing about for me, like you asked Christian, was the most like hard thing about fighting, about like me right now with the 2 losses and everything, is being here. Being here is good. I tell you, is my dream, but at the same time, like I miss my family, I miss Chihuahua, I miss the culture. America is totally different. Like the people. People are cold. People is different. Like here, you need to be called to success, and that's another thing. But that's why I'm so like you were telling Goofy and Smiley and like with a like kind heart, because I really care about people. That's the way Mexico is. You know, care about people, care 2 shits about people, and like love with all you have, and that's what I do. I love my friends here. I love the people here. I will kill for them. I love the sport, and the only thing I want is just fight. So right now, the best thing for me is fight. So I need to fight, and then maybe go back to Chihuahua. So expect to fight before the end of the year.
Well, that's great, dude. You know, Fernando, I know we need to get you on out of here so that you can head back in with coaches. What's that?
We can keep talking. Don't worry, it's good.
Well, I want to make sure you make it in time for coach, so we can keep it going. I do want to ask.
Yeah,
this,
we can keep it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
we got a couple minutes. I do want to ask this. One thing that we kind of glossed over was your transition from coming from Mexico to here, because you were starting to train out there. What brought you specifically to Southern California, and specifically to, Orange County, essentially?
10 Planet for sure. 10 Planet. So just like a lot of people don't know. A lot of people, like I tell you, you see me and you see a skinny guy, and like you never think that I'm going to be good at fighting, you know. But I say it at the beginning.
You probably should know one thing though, before I let you go on. Yeah, you're skinny, but you're also I don't know how to put this in a way that makes sense to everybody, but like anytime I see somebody who's Mexican or a brown person, I don't assume they don't know how to fight. I definitely true. Like, it's very funny because people are always like, "Oh, Raph, you're a host and whatever," and I'm like, "Yeah, I go, but please don't cut me because I'll cut you back, and I really don't want to have to." But you know, it's nice. We're all super nice and friendly, but just don't. That is usually what the masses do.
Exactly. Don't mess. Like, don't mess with us. Like, nope.
But it's funny because to a very different extreme, very different. you know, I was talking with Sergio Hernandez about this. In my history, like, I remember there's a certain point where your family starts to teach you how to defend yourself, and they have those conversations about how to box and how to do all that. And I'm like, I can't box worth shit. And so then it's like, well, I better be good at something else here. And then instead of being good at boxing, they're like, you're super durable. And I was like, yep, that's my fight trait. If I get into a fight, it's like, go ahead and punch me 1,000 times. And they're going to be like, is that a good strategy? No, I wouldn't suggest it to anybody else.
That's a Mexican way. Get hit.
But I'm sorry. Go right ahead, man. You were saying.
My transition is because of 10 Planet. So I get my brown belt in 4 years. I'm a brown belt in 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I get my brown belt in 4 years, just training hard. My first year of Jiu-Jitsu, I get my blue belt. My blue belt is the only belt that I was with it like for a long time. It was year and a half, and I get my brown belt, my purple belt, and then in less than half year or maybe 9 months, I get my my brown belt right away. It was really hard. It was really big jumps. Master B give me my purple belt back in 10 Planet. 10 Planet. Now, it was 1 year of lapse. And 10 Planet El Paso, he gave me the 29th of December. He gave me my purple belt. And 1 year before, 1 year after that, I fight a couple times. I win by Day Dorsher a couple times. I went to I do a lot of tournaments and win too. And Eddie gave me my brown belt the 29th of December of the year after. So I get to know a lot of people thanks to that. I start getting famous in the Jiu-Jitsu 10 Planet business, you know, more than what I am right now. I think back in Chihuahua I was doing better with the Jiu-Jitsu. In like being famous Jiu-Jitsu wise, you know. Right now I'm more famous like MMA wise. But like I get to know Casey, I get to know Ron, I get to know all these people like Scott Ross. I lived with Scott for 10 days, one like amazing person, like Eddie, like everybody, you know. And I remember one EBI Mexico City when Gio won the title. I went with Casey and I told him, hey Casey, you know, I know that you train UFC fighters, and I was just blindfolded for what like America is about training and gyms and things, you know. Like I was thinking it was similar to Mexico, nothing like that. So I was just like, hey Casey, can I go with you to like 10 Planet, train with you? Like, I know you train UFC guys. I want to be in the UFC. He was like, oh yeah, whenever you want. You can stay in my house for 1 week, or I don't know. Like we have a lot of people there. They can open the doors. And I was just like, oh no, you're not understanding. It's like, I wanna get there. I wanna go. If it has to be 1 year, 6 months, I wanna be there and get there. He was like, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. You're like, okay, just give me 1 week, and then we text back on Messenger. He actually do it 1 week. He texts me back in a week. Hey, what up with you? Give me your information. I gave him my information and everything, and he's like, get ready, you coming? And I tell it was a hard talk with my mom and my dad. So for this time in my life, I was passing for a really bad depression, I was between doing what my mom and my dad wants or being happy. They want me to study. They want me to go to school, obviously, because it was the best for me. Like they don't finish school, and my dad was like, I'm a very lucky guy, man. I'm a very lucky. I work really hard, but don't wait for luck to come by. Like study, have something that is sure. But I love fighting. I tell you, I love fighting more than nothing. And they don't see it that way. They always being like school. And so my coach, after that EBI in Mexico City, we went back to Chihuahua. I already have my brown belt and everything. We were talking, and I was the one always in the gym. Since the beginning, I was the one always in the gym, from when they open all the way to when they're closed. Always. My coach at one point started like making jokes, taking pictures to me and send it to my mom like, hey, the child care is over. come back for Padilla, things like that. And he was like my second dad too. My old coach Mauricio Ramirez, he's like my second dad. He showed me a lot. He made me grow up and being more mature in like jiu-jitsu head, like MMA head. So he told me, he sit down with me one day. We closed the gym. We sit down inside the cage, and he was like, "Oh, I cannot show you nothing else. It's like you are in another level now. Like if you stay in Chihuahua, you're not going to do nothing. You need to go out. It's like you're here, and I'm here." And I was just like, "Nah, don't say that." 1 year before that, we having a conversation about, because I was studying and going to the gym, so I was sometimes in the gym really, really tired. Like, oh, I don't sleep good or things like that. And my coach was like, "Fernando, why you fucking like?" It's like, "Are you bored? Are you bored? Because I have a lot of things to show you." And I was like, "No, no, no. It's just I'm like, sorry, coach. Like, I don't mean to." And that was 1 year before, or a couple months before, and then I have this guy over here sitting down with me, the person that I look like is my everything, telling me that he cannot show me nothing. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard, but it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes totally. He told me, "You know where you have to go. You already have a gym over there with Casey waiting for you, and you just need to talk with your mom and your dad." So I went with them all the way from the gym to my house, just thinking what I'm going to say, how they're going to react, and so it was a good conversation. Thank God they were on the kitchen talking. So I just came there and I was like, I need to talk with you guys, like really serious. In this point is when Jair Rodriguez,
Mm-hmm.
uh, he was growing up like wow, like in the UFC. Jair was, oh wow, like
Yeah.
he's a force.
Absolutely.
He's the only one from Chihuahua. He's from not my same. We are from the same state, from Chihuahua, but he's from Parral. I'm from the main city, Chihuahua, and like I saw his fight. I think he fight with BJ Penn, and the only thing I remember of like Joe Rogan and everybody saying is, this kid had 28, 24. This kid had 24 years. Oh wow, he's so young. Oh, 24, 24, 24. And like the only thing I was in my mind like, man, you're 19. You're like, from here, like you're going to turn 20 this year. 4 more years are going to pass so fast. Like you're not even going to see it. You need to go out of here. So I tell that to my mom and my dad, and like I guess my dad, for first time in his life, like look at my eyes with like this serious like meaning of something, like I want this.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom was so confident during all the talk. She was just like, you don't even know. And my dad was just looking at me, and the moment my dad say, "Okay, you're going," my mom was like, "What?" Like, no, you're not going nowhere. My mom was thinking my dad was about to say no, but so yeah, we make a deal. Pretty much, we make a deal. My family and me. It was I was going to stay just 1 year here. If I do good, I go. They're going to they're going to be good if I keep going. If I don't get to my goal, that was the UFC the last year, I go back to Chihuahua and study. Well, the year finished. I finished the year good with four fights, and they were like, "You can stay there all the time that you want. This is your career." But I talked with my family, and in less than 1 week, I was coming over here, and I was thinking I was going with Casey all the way to Vegas. Casey was like, "No, I have a gym for you." So he don't tell me nothing, and then he was like, "Timoyama." And like obviously I know Coach Colling because like Tito and Rampage, but I didn't know that he was still training people. So I came here, I stepped in the gym, and I was just amazed. Like it's the biggest gym I've been, and it was like the perfect place. It was just like a family for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard, but it was good.
I'll tell you this, man. This is probably quasi-relatable, but probably not. It is difficult to have those conversations with your parents. At their core, they definitely want the best for you. And I think that the infancy of MMA, at least for a profession, is still something that's hard for people to wrap their head around. What I think is easier to start to understand as you learn more about the sport is you are a student. You are a student of MMA, and that you aren't, in a class per se with other like kids writing notes about science or algorithms or things like that. You're a student in an art where you're showing up and your art is fighting. And so people don't necessarily put those things together. But years ago, I remembered, I got a scholarship to go to do speaking. I used to compete professionally in speaking, like a sport. And I remembered going to my parents and being like, well, I'm moving to Illinois. And they're like, why are you going to Illinois? And I was like, well, they're paying for me to go. And I remembered looking at my whole family and being like, I'm disappointing them. You think you want to be the good son. But if I never went to Illinois, I wouldn't have ever met my wife. I wouldn't have ever set forth on a series of career ambitions that would get me to doing the things that I want to do. And it wouldn't have given me the skill that I needed, that I didn't know I needed. So sometimes it is about taking that extra journey and that extra step. And I'm so glad that your parents recognize that now, because
Like,
for them to say you can stay there as long as you want is a recognition of your work, the time that you have put into it, and more importantly, them understanding this isn't something you're going to flake out on. This is where your passion is.
yeah, yeah. Like I tell you, nobody knows about that. Like, that I'm a very depressive person because of my dad passed that to me. My dad is a little bit depressive sometimes, more when he drinks. But I was never going through something so hard like that, between like making my mom and my dad happy or making myself happy. Never like nothing that happened here training wise, like being injured, like wanting to train, whatever it is. I never passed for a most hard time than that. I was thinking that nobody realized, that nobody knows that, like, that I was depressed. I was going to school and then like going back home and just sleeping all day, like in my bed all day, going to train and then just go back to sleep. Like don't talk with nobody. I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. And in that point, nobody want to fight with me back in Chihuahua. So my career was really pretty much just stuck. And I was in one point, I was just feeling like going down, like like I don't know what I'm going to do. And I came here and things changed. Things changed. I was happy. I was active all the time. I was like looking to do whatever they want me to do. And my mom and my dad, the first time I went back to Chihuahua, they tell me it was my dad talked to me. He was on tears when he told me like that he feel guilty of not giving me this opportunity like before, because he was like, I can feel that you were depressed. Like I see you, like I tried to push you to do stuff. I tried to push you to like, oh, let's go hang out like a family, and like you were just always sleeping or in bed, like tired. And it was hard, but like thank God they realized that my it was more hard to watch my dad telling me that he realized that, and like he was feeling guilty, but I was like, don't feel guilty. Look where I am right now. Look what I'm doing. Look how happy I am, and it's all because of you. Like I have a lot. I like. There's a lot of things, like life. I understand. Like for more fun and games that I am, and for more like lighthearted that I am, I understand that life is not beautiful. Like life have a lot of shit,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of shit. There's a lot of shitty people. There's a lot of like, and I've been around them for a long time, and then even here, there's a lot of people there. They are just greedy. They are just shitty. They are just liars. Yeah. There's always,
Yeah.
but uh,
But it also sounds like you make the choice to be that, to be happy, and to select and reject what it would be to be a down person, and honestly, dude, it's easy to get into a rut. It's not just something that drags down a fighter or a person who does a
Yeah.
martial art. Like this happens in so many different fields, and that's why it's so hard for so many people to break out of these ruts. It's interesting because in your head you're like, oh, 24 for Yair. Oh, 24.
Yeah.
24 is the thing. And it's like, yo, kid, you're not even getting started at 24. You know what I mean? Like, fight-wise, you might be 1,000 years old, but your life is still young. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's, when I hear our good friend Keith Kokorian tell me and being like, oh, man, this is hard. I'm like, you're 21, kid. It's adorable. I understand.
Everybody told me too.
But at the same point, it doesn't make light of the idea of you haven't been through things or experienced them that will contribute to what does make life start to become even better. But man, no, you are actively making choices and doing that, and I think that it is a good trait, dude. It's a solid testament to having your head on straight, and I think that's good, man. It just means that, like I said, dude, a lot of times people don't know until they know. And you got here, you got that great experience. You're surrounded by these other fighters who are all equally as ambitious and driven. And one thing that speaks to me that I don't want to put you on blast or do this, but there are things that I see occasionally that I say I have the privilege of seeing that I don't try to ruin for people. You know, I have privileged knowledge sometimes. And the privileged knowledge I have from the other night is after your King of the Cage fight, where they switch the order around and suddenly you're fighting almost toward 11, later, way later than you're supposed to be fighting. And I see that after such a long and exhausting day, you win your fight, you go back for a half second, and then I see you run right back out to go coach one of your teammates. And that's something that I think a lot of people say that they do or want to do, but not everybody does who's a fighter. And I was very, very happy to see, you were walking back out there and people were like congratulating you and being like, hey man, good job. And you're like, cool. I got to go coach my friend real quick. And I thought that was pretty dope. Even though you were coaching somebody who was against my friend, and I was kind of like, hey, listen, I could really use you to not be here right now, but they had a great fight, so I was very proud of that.
Yeah. Hey, no, that kid, the other kid is really, really tough. Yanni is a guy. He came here 1 month ago. He's been here with Oyama 1 month, and he's from Mexico City. He's my brother, Yeah. I support everybody on the team. I'm always there in the fights. I'm always there. Like, I'm the bucket man. I'm the guy who grab the eyes, but I like to always be in there.
Well,
And,
I also saw you. So I'll reveal a little more, which is this. At the very beginning of the nights, when the fights were just starting, I heard Christian yell at me as I was like just getting around. And they didn't have my seats anywhere. They didn't tell me where to sit initially. And so I'm like trying to figure out like where the fuck am I supposed to sit? And I'm also trying to stay out of everybody's way. And I hear Christian heckling me, and I'm like, I wave him off like, oh, shut up. And then I go to turn around and be like, I see you. And as I'm about to do it, I'm about to hit one of the ring girls. And I didn't see because I was like, shut up, Christian. Nah, I got you. Oh my God. I take a second. But the weird part about that is the real reason that it threw me off was Christian I expect to see. But I saw you in regular clothes, and I had a moment where I'm like, aren't you supposed to be fighting later? And instead of seeing you in warm-up attire, I saw you just out there, and it made me worried that your fight got canceled, because then I was like, please don't tell me your fight got canceled. So that was what I was thinking before I almost knocked down a ring girl who had no idea what was going on. And I was like, oh my God, please don't be the guy who knocks down the ring girl. I will never live that down. But yeah, I was legitimately surprised to see you not just out there, but not dressed up or ready or, warming up when you have a fight coming up later that night.
Yeah, like I tell you, I was really calm. I was really relaxed. I know that the time was about to come, but it was early in the day, I have a lapse of 10 fights to warm up. Like actually after that fight that you see me there, like we went back. I started shake my body a little bit, and then I put I think it was three or four more fights, and then coach wrapped my hands, and I start hitting the like in regular clothes with jeans. I have videos. Like I show it to you later. I have videos of like me in jeans in regular shirt, just hitting the with boxing gloves, just hitting the pads with Christian. Everybody was just looking at me like he's hitting the pads with jeans. And like I'm cutting, like I was a little bit light, so my pants were like falling down all the time. So I grab a little bit of wrap and just wrap it around, and everybody was like, "Oh, this struggle build." I was just like, I just want to warm up a little bit, you know. I warm up. I pretty much do go through a training session. It's the first time I do this, but I go through a training session before the fight. Like I hit pads for 3 minutes, for 2 minutes, 3 rounds with Christian, and then I hit it again the same, and then I hit it again the same, and I was like like you say, it was just a long night.
Yeah.
But no matter what, like they always they are always for me the people from the gym. Yanni is very supportive with me because we are the two Mexicans here. He understands me a little bit better, like how like my culture is and like how we act. I like Yanni a lot. He's a really good kick. He's really good. Like that fight was really good. Like props for both. Like the other guy was really good too. I remember he came to me, and I was like, "Good fight," and he was like, "Oh no, good fight. I'm a big fan of you," and I was just like, "Oh, thank you." Thank you. You know, like,
one thing about Milton. So Milton is, he's a big student of the game too. He's one of my good friends. I train with him a bit, and I tell people when I have to work as a journalist, I can't coach you guys. I can't yell out things. I sit there and I have to be very impartial, and then to make things even more complicated, I interview so many people that it's inevitable. People who I interview are going to go against each other at some point, especially when you take as into mention how many people are in grappling that I'm like, yeah, they're going to have a super fight against each other. Oh, they're against each other. So I was telling him, I was like, here I am first round just sitting there watching. And that was a solid first, like, they're kind of filling each other out that first round. But I was like, no, I think he won. Your guy won that first round. And I'm like, better get together if you're going to win this fight. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like they both had solid moments, but it's one of those things that in order for Milton to win, he had to pull it out. And those are the fights that I think fighters come away with respect for each other. And again, it's where I kind of sit there and I'm like, there's nobody else other than fucking 10th Planet? Like, Jesus Christ. But I did tell him, and it was the same thing, there was a close split decision earlier where I think your guy and my buddy Elliot, and we're talking like just tenths of a point that it is for, are you taking control? Are you taking strikes into occasion and all those sorts of things? And I tell the fighters this, I'm like, that's out of your control. As long as you put your true soul out there and you put your work, then you let the referees, of course, make the decision. But if you're a true fight fan, you don't get mad at the fighters. To me, it was one of those things where I just go, man, I really felt like Elliot could have won that decision, but it's a decision. You let it go to decision and you leave it in the hands of the refs. And I was like, and no offense to the gentleman who was fighting him, but I was just like, they're both okay, and that's good.
Like I tell you, the fight was really close. Looking at it like a fighter or a like analyst, or if you know about fights, if you're not just a regular guy trying to go and see people hitting each other, if you know about fights, the fight was really close and understanding. They both were landing, they both were throwing sharp punches,
Absolutely.
sharp things, but takedown wins. One takedown, if the striking is that close, one takedown is going to win the fight.
Sure.
Like that, I feel that, for example, was different in my fight than in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
I win the striking part. I knock him down and things like that, and he take me down. In the ground, I was working. I was on my back, but I was working. I was putting him on submissions. I was looking for stop. I don't feel that I lose that round, even with the takedown.
So here's where it gets weird and murky. So for me, it becomes okay. If you get the takedown, what are you doing off of your back, right? And that's all interpretive. So now it becomes okay. What's your interpretation of things? Where it gets weird to me, and where take me out of knowing one of the guys, just me as a fight analyst, is when you get the two people who come with 30-27s. And you get one 30-27 and one 30-27. And I look at one of them and I look at the other one and I just go, y'all can do better than this. Like, this is not, like, again, clearly I know one of these guys, but you guys are not judging this right.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're so split on there, I just think it robs the fighters of their experience. Because to me, I'm like, if he lost a split decision and it was closer like that, I would have been like, you know what? That's the way it went that day. We're good. To hear 2 30-27s is just like, oh, Jesus Christ. Who the fuck is watching this?
Yeah,
So,
like,
but
I tell you, like, for sure, I tell Yanni and everybody tell Yanni, like, that fight, he lost that fight because of the takedowns. He couldn't stand up. The Milton controlled the top really good. He hit him a lot. Like, pretty much all the bruises and punches that he have right now, Yanni, is because of the top position. I saw the elbows landing.
Yeah.
I saw the punches. It was just really good.
But I'll tell you this much though, with Yanni, I saw Milton. I thought had some good counters, but I thought Yanni was pressing the action really well. And so to me, I'm like, especially when I saw the judges doing 30-27s at the very beginning of the fights, and there is a weird moment where they're kind of looking at me, and I'm like looking at them, going like, you guys should probably be better at your jobs, kind of a thing. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if you're a fighter, you can't even depend on this. You have to finish, And I looked over at Milton and I wanted to be like, yo, dude, good job countering, but these aren't the countering judges. Like to me, seeing Yanni do that, I see he's got a great career ahead of him. And I feel like, if this is where he's at with just a little bit of time with you guys, I'm very excited to see where he goes from there. So please tell him that before he ever rolls with me, because he's going to try and murder me after hearing this interview.
Nah, don't worry. He's good. He's a good, cool guy. I always say cool kid because he's shorter than me, but he's older than me. He's 23 right now, so I'm 21. But I see Yanni like my little brother too. He look at me because I've been training here for like. He always tell me like, oh wow, like you do this, or oh how do you do that, things like that, and like it feels good. So like having something like that. Even Christians, like it's crazy how like the level is here that sometimes you think you don't know as much as other people, and then in one point they just ask you stuff like we hitting pads, we doing stuff. For example, Christian and me, we work a lot. Like I saw. In that case, I saw Christian like an older brother, or like Christian is since he started training there, he's been pushing me a lot, like a lot. Every time I hear Christian do like, "Hey, come on," like I stop for a second and he says something, I just like immediately go back. Like I just like that reaction of like an older brother saying something,
Yeah.
And it's funny because like for me, I feel Christian has been in the sport more than me. And he knows a couple stuff more than me. But sometimes we drilling, we hitting pads are tough, and then he asks me, like, and I feel that he realized it too. Like, he asked me something, and I'm like, what? Did you just ask me, like, how did I do that? He's like, do you do it all day? He's like, do you really ask me? He's like, yeah, you do it good. He's like, oh, wow, thank you. Like, wow.
Well,
it's funny.
I liken it to like this. I don't fight. It's not in my DNA, but it doesn't mean that my brain doesn't work. And so a lot of the times what I do is I might see something a little bit from a different perspective. So to fighters, a long time ago, I would never be the guy who would offer up something. But if I see something a number of times where I just go, hey, can we chat about this little grip you've got here? And they'll be like, whoa. And I'll just be like, listen, I don't want to see you fuck up that grip one more time or I'm going to fucking punch you myself.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I'll literally just be like, listen, you could probably murder me 1,000 times in a roll, but good insight is good insight. And if you're smart, you take that good insight. So to my friends and my closest training partners, I just offer. I'm like, I'm always a sounding board for you guys. So whether you recognize it or not, even though you respect these people, everybody has their keen insight, and it's way, way of a beneficial thing when you have somebody who can see outside, because sometimes you can't necessarily see what other people are seeing. So that's a high mark, especially from Christian, to have that as somebody who recognizes that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I tell you, like coming back to the part that you say, like about cornering about being there with your training partners, is this: we are a family. Like that's what I say all the time. We're a family, and I'm a family guy. Since I was in Chihuahua, like I love my family. That's the worst thing about being here for me. Like the hardest thing is not the party, is not the comfort, is my family, not being with my family.
Yeah.
But the moment that I step here and the moment that I train in Timoyama, they make me feel like at home. They make me feel like my family. They always being there. For example, Alex, you know Alex Perez, yeah, obviously. uh, he's a prick. He's a hard person. You know,
Yeah.
he's the opposite of me. Like I'm an open book. If you ask me stuff, if you want to talk, I sit down with you, I smile to you, and like I listen to you. Alex sometimes is not like that. Alex is hard. He's like, fuck up, or I don't want to be here, or like shut up, or things like that.
Yeah.
But he's like in the center of all that. He's a really nice person, and he always make me feel like home. He always support me. He always being there, like even joking about it and like giving me hard love. But that's the way he expressed it. Same with Christian. Christian, I feel that he's a guy. This is funny because the first time I like meet Christian, this is the way that I was feeling about him. He don't respect me at all. The first time we look at each other, and he used to treat me like shoulder bump me. He barely talked to me. He looked at me and he's like, and things like that. Till we start sparring, till we start training, and then like I start doing more stuff, and I start like growing up, and like I start like stepping up with him, and he start like giving me that respect, and then we start talking, we start hanging out, we start being friends, you know. But like I have to win that like respect with Christian, and he's like that too. Like everybody's different. Like Christian is like that, and I respect a lot Christian because of that. Like he's a hard worker. He for sure is one of the hardest workers that I ever know. He's always training. He's always training. He's always learning, and he's just getting better and better.
Christian
And
is a man. I mean, again, talk about having a good team to go with. Christian's he's an excellent fighter. He's
yeah,
very solid fight IQ and tough as a fucking brick, man.
yeah, he's just really he's really smart. Sometimes you look at Christian, and he's like, this guy is just a caveman, or he's just a funny guy. But he's really smart. Sometimes he says stuff out of nowhere, and you're like, wow, this guy is smart.
Yeah, no, he's and what's funny is that I just it's part of the reason why I see your personalities. I think that people can talk all the shit they want about like social media and whatnot. But one of the best parts is I see with Christian when his social media, he's just like, I'm watching a movie. You guys are going to watch a scary movie with me. And it's like, you see part of his personality go between that and he's drawing dicks on fucking cars. And you're just like, yeah, he's a goof. Good for him. And I think that's where I think a lot of the personality aspect for your traits come in, where I'm like, nah, dude, you're just always happy on your stories. You're always enjoying yourself. I think that's pretty cool. It looks like you're you're living your best life, to say, in a sort of whatever thing. I just want to wrap, as we start to wrap up, just direct you in one little thing. When we close here, I want you to look at some of these comments, and I'm going to kind of skirt through a few of them. But there's a lot of people who are writing super nice things about you. Marshall Stamper misses you, who says, and who invented the dead orchard? And you've got... best rubber guard in MMA from Soon Yu. A lot of love, just kind of translated very roughly of, somebody saying one of the best fighters in Mexico that is doing super great in the USA and doing us super proud. Like, you've got a lot of friends and family members who are super proud of you. And, Sid Scrobb didn't waste too much time in saying how good you are because he knows. And I've rolled with him, and he's Does not go well. But you got a lot of people here, my friend, who are big fans of what you're doing, and it's easy to see why. So as we start to wrap up here, can we go ahead and take care of any sponsors for you, my man?
Yeah, well, just to shout out my sponsors. Terp House, one of the biggest one right now. They sponsor me. They've been with me a lot. Actually, I have my shorts here, just for you to see it. uh, I have the Terp House over there in the front. I have Aussie Fight Dogs, always taking care of me. I appreciate them and love them with all my heart. Team Oyama, obviously, in my other leg, my team, my gym. We have this one that is new. He's sponsoring Christian me right now too, but Craft Meal Preps. They sponsor my last week of my fighting camp pretty much on my meals, and it was amazing. They couldn't work. People is asking for me right now. I need to go to the gym, but they were asking. They helped me a lot. They don't have too much to work with, but they helped me a lot. Camp Planet here too, my gym, and I have Franchise Customs, and at the end, Iridium Sports for sure. They're always there for me. Thank you a lot to everybody.
This is genius. I should have more people just bring on their fight gear so that they can do their sponsors. Because half the time I'm like, hey, you guys want to shout out your sponsors? And they go, I don't, oh my God, I'm going to forget one of my sponsors. So for you to bring out the shorts, it's like, that's what we should do. Just bring out your fucking banner and just be like, here's my, the people who are taking care of me.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, well, I need to wrap up. I need to go back to the
I
gym.
was trying to get you fucking out of here. Anyway, listen, I think as he tries to figure out what's going on his phone, we're going to go and wrap this up. I will talk to you later, Fernando. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you. Be safe.
You too, buddy. Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
Peace.